Fairly regularly, I get requests for what I think the best deck you can be playing right now if you are Series 3 complete only might be. And it's always a bit of a loaded question. The tier list has a few options in the form of things like Lock-Thor, for example, Deathwave. These are decks that are very well established and have the ability to challenge and climb if you want to dedicate yourself to learning how to play them. But a lot of people are looking for something a little bit more unique that isn't necessarily as well known. They can surprise their opponents, and therefore the data really doesn't back that up because it has a very small sample size. But today I want to offer you my vote for the deck list you should be playing if you are Series 3 complete, have no Series 4 or no Series 5 cards, and you're looking to make that last minute charge to infinite rank over this weekend. I call this deck I Just Want to Play Doom, and the reason for that is because this deck is very much a Doctor Doom deck at its core. If you watched my recent Lockjaw Thanos video, you'll know that I'm a really big fan of Doctor Doom right now. I think the card is still underplayed, even though people are more aware of how good it is at playing against opposing arrows, circumventing opposing sandmans, and just allowing you access to problematic locations that you might not be able to get in, allowing you to play everywhere all at the same time. I think the card just deserves more respect than it currently has, and that was the inspiration behind kind of reinvigorating this good card shell and utilizing a list built around the ability that Doctor Doom offers us to play back against our opponent. I'm going to break this down for you in a card by card. So we'll start things off with Sunspot. Unsurprisingly, Sunspot at the moment is just one of the best cards in Marvel Snap. It sees play in everything, plays exceptionally well with decks that are occasionally missing energy on curve due to one of the cards they want to play, and of course the big hitter that goes alongside it is She-Hulk, enabling you to have some very silly plays on turns 5 and 6, courtesy of She-Hulk being massively reduced. Up next, however, we have Iceman, a card that has long been touted as an all-star in many decks. It's hard to understand the impact that Iceman can have on a game because you often don't see which card was affected by its tax, but making decks like Shuri Zero play off curve by taxing an important card goes a very long way. This card has fantastic stats and it's just a great one to play early in a deck like this. Our 2-drop slot is just Lizard. We're very often going to be looking to just play this one out to gain priority early for our effects like Polaris and Storm. There isn't really another 2-drop this deck would consider playing outside of Armor, but if you do find yourself wanting another early play, maybe that's where you could choose to go. The 3-drops are where this deck really comes into its own. Mr. Fantastic is a great little card that I think is possibly the most underrated card in Marvel Snap. When we look at cards that grant you early priority, Mr. Fantastic isn't always in the same conversation as a card like Maximus or Lizard, but it really does do such a fantastic job at doing exactly that. Letting you gain stats on all 3 locations often allows you to be the one revealing first going into those important mid-game turns where you really want to be beating opposing Cosmos and similar styles of effect. Mr. Fantastic is also just fantastic, I keep saying it, obviously, in decks that are playing cards like Doctor Doom and Storm, where we're looking to lock our opponent away from certain locations, because it lets us get extra stats into those locations in a pinch. Speaking of Storm, this deck obviously kind of a natural home for a card like this. Doctor Doom gives you the ability to play into those locations late, and we get to follow it up on many occasions with a card like Jessica Jones to try and secure a location really cheaply and easily off the back of Storm flooding it out. Wave is one of the all-stars of this deck, and again, just a vote in my case for one of the best cards Snap has to offer. It has natural synergy with a card like She-Hulk, allowing us to play a big expensive 5 or 6 cost card alongside She-Hulk on turn number 6 if it's played alone on turn 5. But on top of that, it offers great disruption against Thanos decks and other decks like Toxic Serra that want to be playing multiple cards on the final turn of the game. It's pretty easy just to lock that down and make things cost the wrong amount for decks like Modok Discard. Polaris is my choice of 3-cost card that I'm playing mostly for stats. I think the small amount of interaction can go a long way at moving cards out of problematic locations from your opponent, getting a Sunspot out from underneath an armor against decks that are playing it and Killmonger, and sometimes, every now and then, you'll even get to fizzle a Galactus by moving a Wolverine into the wrong spot. Jessica Jones is not a card that's seeing a lot of play right now, but I wanted a good 4-cost play that settled in nicely behind Storm in this deck once we stormed out a location, and Jessica Jones is my vote for that right now because we don't want to make sure that our 4-drops are getting Shang-Chi'd. With how popular that card is in the metagame right now, we'd like our 4-cost card to reach 8 power and nothing higher if given the choice. Something I want to point out about this deck that I was really happy with in fundamental design is we're very, very good at beating Shang-Chi. The only target for it in the entire deck is She-Hulk, and she often will be coming down on turn 6 and no earlier, which is fantastic as a piece of natural counterplay to one of the game's most popular cards right now. The top end of this deck will look very similar to many others you've seen in the past, because these are just the best cards in slot for the most part. Arrow goes on record as one of the most powerful cards in the game for many folks, just great at disrupting Galactus players, moving all the cards to a location you were already losing on turn number 6, and many other tempo plays in the middle. Really allows Dr. Doom to shine as well by moving cards out of a location where you'd like a Doom bot to seal the deal. Speaking of the big man, we've talked about him a few times now, but Dr. Doom really is a linchpin in this deck, and the reason I'm so excited to play it on the ladder right now, I just think there's not enough respect around this card and how well it is able to diversify your game plan against many of the deck's problematic matchups. Odin seems like a bit of a weird fit in this deck for many people, but it's actually got some very natural synergies all around. Odin and Wave are a known pairing going all the way back into beta, letting you lock your opponent out of playing as many cards as they would like for several turns in a row. Wave can also enable you to play Dr. Doom earlier, allowing Odin to make even more Doom bots later down the line. Last but not least, every now and then you'll find yourself duplicating other on-reveal abilities such as Aero, Polaris, Iceman, or things you stole from your opponent or were granted by locations. Odin can really shine in those spots as well. Last but not least, we do have the She-Hulk. We kind of talked about it briefly when speaking about Sunspot and Wave, but it's just the best top-end package that Pool 3 players have available to them right now. The card is everywhere in the game for a reason. Don't really recommend playing this one without it. Do let me know what you think of this deck if you're going to try it out on the ladder yourself. I've been super impressed and I will be playing it more going forward. I've had a really good time with it too. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel here at Marble Snap Zone for more daily Marble Snap content. But until next time, enjoy the games. I've been Howling Minds. I'll see you again very soon. Have a good one. I think I'm just supposed to arrow here a lot of the time. We have reveal priority and we're winning 2 lanes. Makes a lot of sense to just fire the arrow on the left hand side. Could definitely still Odin on the Doom here. Gives you some options. But I think for the most part the arrow is usually going to be more profitable in a spot like this. Opponent just getting out of here. Victory. Nice. Looking good. Certainly not complaining about a win like that. Plenty of options towards the end there as well. Always an interesting decision as to whether you're supposed to lead on a Sunspot or Iceman. Sometimes, though, Sokovia makes it easier for you. Opponent losing their Lock-Thor is likely a very big deal. As, quite frankly, it's probably the best card in their deck. Lock-Thor is often the best card in many people's deck right now. They had Quinjet Lock-Thor too, jeez. Sokovia likely did us a pretty big favour there, I think. Even if it doesn't look like it straight away. This is a much slower game. This is going to be juice the Sunspot for a bit. Hopefully make a turn 3 play. This is interesting. So I can hold the Wave for turn 6. Or I can just Wave into Odin. Which, to be honest, against Thanos just feels like it's the better thing to do. I think I'm kind of on board with this. Make my opponent think that I might be Galactus as well. Always fun to put the fear of God into them as though you're a Galactus player. So you want to rep the Galactus, so we snap. Yeah, opponent gets out of here. Victory. I think I'll include this one as a small little tidbit in the video actually. It wasn't a game that I think I was normally going to include, but it's a line of play that I really want to highlight for why I think this deck is really good. Is that you can do this Wave on turn 3 play and snap, and your opponent has to respect Galactus, which you're obviously not doing. And I think that gives you a lot of game, a lot of leverage. Bar Sinister Iceman is very funny, but probably not correct. So we'll get a little frosty on my opponent's hand. Sewer System is kind of sad. Think if this is a She-Hulk game, the Sunspot might be worth more than the Lizard here, potentially. Unclear. I think I'm playing the Lizard for now. Definitely worth thinking about, though. Opponent will Zabu. Gamma Lab. That's a toughie. Think I'm just supposed to get Fantastic here. Opponent continues playing mid too, which is definitely curious. Typhoid Mary, huh? So this might be Toxic Serra, which means they have a Shang-Chi to utilize. So drawing the arrow, I think what we're going to do is Sunspot Storm with the intention of arrowing the Shang-Chi away if they don't play it right now.
Wind, aid my hand.
Wong. That's actually a very, very good Iceman. Okay, that's a pretty good wave. Definitely a little scared of Shang-Chi here. Was this Iceman from me? No. So now the arrow looks a little worse because my opponent filled up, but that's okay. Gambit goes to work, hits the Hulk. That's so unfortunate. Then plays a beast. Alright. Fair enough. Well, in that case, I think the play is pretty face up. We hit the Doom. So do we care about more about Doom or Odin? No, Doom or Arrow, sorry. Tough. Doom gives the Gambit more things to hit, but I think this ends up being better most of the time. So we'll go for the old Arrow plus She-Hulk. Opponent's under wave, by the way, so, you know. Wow, man. This is such a powerful endgame. Such a powerful endgame. So I wouldn't really be expecting this to turn up on a tier list anytime soon, just because the sample size isn't going to be there. You know, people aren't going to be rocking this deck very much to get it above 1% of the metagame. But I think if you're a pool 3 complete player, or almost pool 3 complete, I do think this deck has what it takes to be able to climb the ladder and play in the high infinite ranks. And I think it can compete with your Thanos Lockjaws, your Shuri Zeros, these type of decks, and have games that you can comfortably win. I think Doctor Doom is just one of the best cards in Marvel Snap at the moment for how it has so much relevant counterplay into the best decks. And I'm a really big fan of playing it where I can, hence the list being put together here. Do I think this deck is better than those decks? No, I don't. I think they are far and away the best things you could be doing in Marvel Snap right now. But I've been really pleasantly surprised by this deck and what it's capable of achieving with no Series 4 or Series 5 cards. I do think maybe you want to explore Shuri in this list if you've got it, if you want to. But I don't think you need it by any stretch. In fact, I'm leaning towards not playing it overall. But, you know, 4 3-cost cards might be one too many. Maybe you can play another 4-cost card instead, and that might be something worth looking at. But big fan of this one. Highly recommend it. Exportable link for you down below. If you have enjoyed the content, make sure you subscribe for me. Otherwise, I have been Howling Minds. You've been amazing. And this has been Marvel Snap Zone. Take care of yourself. Have a good one.